Hi, everybody. I am Lisa Garrow. This is Jen Hadley, and we are with Candy Event Consulting. And I'm really excited about doing this series this week. This was one of those things, we have had an upside down week, a couple of weeks. We recognize how hard it has been with the COVID-19, and in particular, if you are planning and promoting your own events. There are so many challenges that are popping up and almost daily for us. So I would guess for you guys too. Good morning, Jen. Actually, it's not even morning, it's afternoon.
I don't know what day it is. I don't think it matters.
It doesn't, well, we're kind of morning to night these days. So yeah,
We're minute by
awesome.
minute here too. So it's we'll see
And honestly, this is a way, Jen and I actually share an office. We share a lot of projects together and usually are face to face. But this is a way that we can do this online and continue with the social distancing. People are saying physical distancing, being safe and continuing to do what we do. I wanted to welcome you all to this series. The first part of this series, the reason why we started this series was that we wanted to talk about managing your events through crisis. And we chose a couple of topics for the week. So we've got the first one today being about personal health and wellness, because if we are not doing well ourselves, there's no way we can lead our projects and our teams in the way that we need to. So I just wanted to have a chance for us to talk about that today. We've got a couple of questions. Jen and I are just going to go back and forth and be asking some of the questions we've been getting. And we would love for you to be able to ask those questions as well online. So please chime in, and you can type something in the chat box if you want to. We'll try to answer them as we go. And we'll be here till about 1:30. So feel free to chime in with your questions. How are you doing, Jen?
I'm good. We're all in isolation, and so far so good. It's getting nice outside, so it's harder and harder to stay in. But it's all for the good of the world, and so we're doing what we can. Also, if I just wanted to mention that if there are questions after this broadcast that's live, it's going to be posted on our page anyway. So if you have questions that come up afterwards, just add them, and we'll address them for sure.
Excellent. That's awesome. So what kind of questions are you getting, Jen? What are you hearing from some?
Well, I'll stick to the first one because this one's actually very common. What was your first response when you heard events were needing to be canceled? So what did you do?
What was my response?
Yeah.
I think for me, it was a little bit of unbelief. And I heard someone actually mention last week that they were on adrenaline at first for that first week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was facing that too, because you're going really hard. Like we have so many projects on the go. And when you're hearing that things are canceled, and at the beginning, it was any gatherings that were over 250 people.
Yeah.
And in that case, we actually were okay in some of our events, like to be in compliance. But then it went down to 100, and then it was 50. Now I'm hearing in some states it's 5 people, and New York 2 people.
It's 5 now. It's 5 now.
So in Canada, for it to be 5 people, I think sort of my first response was keep moving. Like that's all. I guess that's what we do. We just, if there's some kind of something goes off the rails, you try to fix it. You try to give yourself some space to figure out what's next.
Right.
That's probably, I don't know, what about for you?
Well, I think that for me, initially, it was like, okay, let's just everyone calm down and see what happens, and start figuring out a plan B in the meantime. So, okay, this may get canceled, this may get rescheduled, but how do we have a backup? So can we pick another date? Can we can we get our deposits back? Can we get a hold on certain venues or caterers or whatever? How can we work with our partners to make it okay for our clients to not freak out? Because this is all, we hear you. We know we're postponing and we're figuring out sort of what's next, right? So I think you and I are the same in that way, where it's not like set in panic, okay, oh my God, we're freaking out. It's okay, now what? So come up with a backup plan, come up with like where do we go from here, and how do we make this work, and to some ways to our advantage.
Well, and I think we're talking too, we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the week. But this idea of moving things. So that was kind of that first thing. Okay, don't cancel. We're going to move it to another date.
Mhm.
And I'm really looking forward to getting into that conversation later this week, because
Yeah.
sometimes that makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. And so your first problem solving, I guess your knee-jerk reaction to problem solve is really about how do you keep the status quo? And I think over the last week, I had a friend that, and that's actually why I used that phrase, that when the event crisis bomb hits, but you can't retreat. He was referring to a bomb hitting a community. And when you're talking about international disaster relief too, people go out and they're trying to find their family. They're trying to find the people they know. They try to understand where are they and what just happened. So it's a bit of shock. And then after that, you start to get into how can I help and how can I support others? And this idea of something going from almost 0 to 60 within hours, like it was literally like probably 2 days,
Yeah.
where we just saw things were not like you were just singing. It's the end of the world as we know it,
I can't get that song out of my head.
because that's kind of what it is right now.
We
Hey,
know it. This is the way, it's the end of the world as we know it. Like, we are not able to live in the way that we did last week.
yeah.
So,
Exactly.
and it changes by the minute. You know, the Prime Minister was on this morning talking about, you know, how I think they're closing parks down now because people aren't listening to that. So
Exactly.
it's real.
Well, and that brings me to a question for you.
Sure.
Because my kids are older now. We've got adults living in our house. As much as that's still, we're all trying to do
They just
life
eat
and
more.
work and do everything together here in the home and not go a little crazy. But for you, you are managing now,
Yes.
having kids, school-age kids at home. And a lot of people that we know are running events, and they've got either a full-time gig and events on the side. And now you would add care of your children, but not just even care of the children, but education and managing. Now you're looking at a September, back to school date, maybe.
Yeah.
So how has that changed your life in the last week as an event planner and somebody that's got a lot of other irons in the fire?
Well, it's been a challenge. I think that really, I'm trying to maintain this is not a panic in my head, and trying to relay that to my children. But they are athletes. You know, my son plays hockey and basketball and baseball, and my daughter plays soccer and she does art and all this other stuff. And it's actually been kind of a blessing to stay home on a weekend. Like, I don't remember the last time that we didn't have somewhere to be at
Right.
6 a.m. So we're actually kind of trying to enjoy that time right now. Everyone's on spring break, so we're not trying to stress too much about the educational structure and all that. I mean, I can probably, with everyone else, say my kids are on their iPads a lot more than they should be. But
I hear it's okay for like a couple of days.
But we used to watch TV when we were kids, so it's kind of the same thing. One screen replaces another, and now I actually prefer it because they're more connected with their friends and they're not feeling isolated because they can still have social interactions. And I think that's really important. So what I did with our school is, with our grade, we set up some interactive, like, Facebook groups and things like that, so that our kids can still stay connected. They've had a Zoom meeting yesterday where all the kids get on and you should hear the conversation. It's actually kind of funny just to hear what they talk about. But I think that all in all, events, even just normal life now, it has to be a matter of getting creative. And there are people that, we're not how it used to be. We can't just send our kids to school, and we have to figure it out. So it's hard. And I think that mine are 10 and 8, so it's not like they're babies, and thank goodness for that, because there's no way I could handle it. But for those of you who are struggling, I hear you. And if you have questions, please message me and we can have like mutual chats about it. But I think that setting up a schedule that's a little bit lax is easier. I think not being super rigid and thinking you have to be the teacher, because we're not. And my kid's teacher told me that specifically. You are not a teacher. You don't have to homeschool. We've got this. We're sending it all online. Thank goodness for like Google Classrooms and Zoom and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
And right now it's just a matter of just building community and making sure that everybody is trying to stay normal, you know, as best you can. Going outside to the backyard is totally fine, you know.
Right, exactly.
And it's so nice out. So it's hard for sure, but as event planners, we also have the luxury of working at 3 a.m, which I know you and I have done a lot. So I'm trying to spend as much time with them as I can, and then work when they're busy with their stuff or sleeping.
Right, exactly. Well, you've done an amazing job, and I think for a lot of people out there, if anyone can do it, event planners have that ability to juggle when you need to juggle, and I think giving yourself grace is really important too, where you can't do it all, and that's okay. And there have been a bunch of emails I've had to send out, and I'm like, I just need an extra, couple of hours on this, or I need another day on this, because with the amount of different inquiries or different people needing support, and that's not just work support, that's life, right? People checking in with each other, and we need to give each other that space and that grace within it all. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's been an interesting ride, and we'll see how it goes. If hopefully school goes back, but you know what? If not, it just means we get to spend extra time with our children.
Yes, exactly.
As crazy as that sounds. But then there's also, here's another question for you, Lisa, about resetting after the crisis bomb goes off. So you talked about the crisis bomb earlier, but just continuing on that, how do you reset? What are we going to do after? When we go out, what's next?
Well, and reset's kind of an interesting word, because I think there's, when you have a plan, some of the difficulty around the plan is that it's locked in, right? You have, I just was hearing about the Olympics maybe being postponed.
They are now.
The money and the time and the staff and the expense, that's emotional expense and money and teams that have put, like, even athletes.
Yeah.
You've got athletes in your family. Well, what a disappointment for so many people. And I think the reset is about saying, okay, so it's not going as planned, but how do you take the step back and allow yourself to see another scenario? And it might mean, like, it still might hurt, and it still might hurt, 10 years from now, or we'll remember it. I was saying this was going to go down in history, honestly. But how do we really, I guess if the question is, how do I reset personally? I would say I have to get creative. I actually start to draw. I create a new program. Actually, even this series this week was out of maybe some adrenaline and some of that, oh my gosh, like, how do we now communicate and talk to people? And it's not the same kind of face-to-face meetings, and things are changing and people are busy. And creating this was almost a way for me to have that reset, to say, we're not done yet. So if there's something that you can implement today, I think I posted something, well, I know I posted something this morning, but it was about just take that, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Yeah. And so that importance of taking the next step for today is a way that you can also reset. So I know that sounds maybe hard to do when you're struggling, or you've got kids in tow and you're trying to figure out where to get toilet paper and what chore needs to happen next, or with your event team when you've got different responses coming from different parts of your team or your company. There is that point of being able to say, we can shift, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be for the worst. Sometimes that'll actually be for the better. Yeah. And I in this too, this idea of with the topic for today, that our projects and our people need us at our best when things are at their worst. Mm-hmm. And I remember, this is years ago, but I remember when there were issues with some clients that I was working with a long time ago, and I would say, when things start to go, because with everybody, right, any event, there's going to be something that goes off the rails. Yeah. And I would say in my head, for such a time as this, show up. like make a difference, make it better than it was 10 minutes ago. And so the reset isn't just one major reset. It might be a bunch of little resets along the way where you're able to step back and say, okay, maybe that's not the way it should work, but that if we adjusted this, or if we added that, or if we brought that person in, it would make a difference. So that's probably the biggest thing for me.
I think also on top of that is having a strategy from the beginning. Like we really, really stress that, especially a lot with our clients, because it's not always about, you know, ticking off boxes specifically. It's what's the plan for the future. And I know, I think you posted something the other day, I think yesterday, about how the strategy doesn't work right now and we're just going day by day. And I think that that's really important. It's just not to throw it all out the window, because at the end of the day, everyone is still at their core of what they want to do, and they're living their, you know, their purpose through what they're doing, hopefully. It's just a matter of just stop for a second and look at what are the options. You know, can we go online? Can we, you know, sit outside our windows from across the street, you know, however that works, you know.
Yeah.
I think there's just, it's an opportunity for us to get creative. And I think that there's something really cool about that. I'm seeing a lot of people discovering their own other talents, sharing their other things. You know, if you can't be what you are every day, who are you inside? A lot of people are turning to art and culture and music. And just like we saw in Italy, people singing in the streets or in their windows. Yeah. When was the last time that happened? You know, so,
and in Vancouver now too.
Yeah, they're clapping for the medical staff. So I think that there's a lot of really interesting things that are going to come of this. You know, teach your kids home ec. You know, home ec is coming back.
It's a really good idea.
Vacuuming, and
I wish I had learned home ec.
Yeah, I don't think I learned.
My mom tried. Thanks, Mom. But
yeah, but you know, like learn how to make your grandma's soup over Skype. You know, whatever it is.
That's a really good point.
There's other ways of learning, and there's other ways of doing things where we're not just stuck at home. You know, we're not trapped here, and we will move on. And whoever that first person is going to be that hosts that first party, I want to be at that party.
Well, and I think to the point of personal health and wellness, Jen, you're probably the party queen of having people over. Like, even if things are crazy busy for you, and it's really the last thing that I might be thinking about is having people over. How is it that you keep yourself feeling well, like mentally well, physically well?
It's been a challenge. I am a very social person, and I always have people at my house. It's like a thing for me. I get in trouble for it a lot from people. Like, why do you always have people over? But I love it. And you're a connector in certain ways, and so am I. And I'm more of an at-home, you know, paint nights and girls' nights and things like that, and play dates for the kids. And I think that's where we're really starting to see it more than anything is people are, well, I can't even, you know, have a dinner party because that's not happening. So I think we're doing it virtually a lot. A lot of our friends are sort of connecting online and having kids play dates. And we just had a kid's virtual birthday party from one of the kids in our class. So working out has been hard, but, you know, we've all got, not all of us, some of us have stairs at home, and, you know, there's obstacle courses you can build, and there's always, you know, sit-ups, and there's things you can do without having to go to the gym. It's actually been really great for meal planning, because now we're not eating out. So we're able to sit at home and plan meals and cook meals. And you and I both know that event food is so amazing. And drinks and party food is always like the highest in calories. So I'm missing out on that a little, but it's also good for my health. So, you know, we're trying to do it what we can, and just knowing that this will end eventually, and try not to panic and filter the information as well as you can, by not reading all the negative. You know, joke around and be funny and have a sense of humor. I think that's really the most important. Your event will happen at some point, in some capacity, if it's meant to, and we're going to do the best we can to help you get it there. So we'll see when we're allowed, we will.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, did you lose me?
I just lost you for a second. I think that the really amazing thing, and this is something that you and I have talked about way long before COVID was an issue. But so many of our clients are those, they're talking about what does it mean to live your purpose?
Yeah.
Or Connie Jacob with National Hope Movement.
Yeah, she talks
running art exhibits and dance, and that when I look at who we have surrounded or have come and surrounded with Candy and in our world, what a gift, because I feel like it's like this daily reminder of the things we're working on, that we get to be part of this bigger conversation around what does wellness actually mean.
Right.
And if you go to my, I know you saw these yesterday, Jen, but on LinkedIn, and I was doing a post about what does it mean to get support through a time like this. So it's about your strategies and your support, and understanding that there's your strategies are only as good as your implementation. But the other part of that is having support and having not just accountability around those strategies, but where people are checking in and are saying, how are you doing? Like, there's a lot going on. And I've been getting a lot of texts and phone calls where people are just saying, must be a tough time.
Yeah.
Are things okay? And honestly, I'm not really someone to talk on the phone a lot. I try when I need to. And Jen, you're probably even
worse. Just
you're of
text
another generation too.
me. It's easier.
Exactly. But whatever way that people can communicate, like you're saying, even doing the birthday parties online, or having, we had an industry really amazing partner call the other day, prompted by one of our partners. And I left that call just feeling really fed and really supported, and that I was able to support them as well. And now the wheels are moving on something where we're working together. So wellness isn't just about, when we talk about self-care and the importance of taking time for yourself, that is one thing, but there's another piece of this, and this is where I've had to learn to not just be a lone ranger over the years. And Jen, you've seen me transition from being completely alone in some of these things that I work on, to including you, but then now we've got a full team, and where the joy in that is actually where we're not alone, and I'm seeing the benefit of that.
Yeah, and I think also people are much more giving and more forgiving right now.
Yeah.
We've got, I have friends that are fitness instructors, and their whole life is their gym, right? Or their class or something. And they've created an online offering. They've, the bar people, not the bar, like restaurant bar, like the bar fitness, they've done an online component. One of our amazing clients, Richard, he's gone from in-person meetings and lectures to going online. And we, people have technical difficulties, and we're working through all that. The bandwidth on the internet is just super tight right now, with everybody going live and on videos and YouTube and all that. So they've actually had to cut down the quality of videos on YouTube because everyone's going online now. So I think that people are understanding of that, where like 2 weeks ago, if your live feed didn't work, people would just be like, oh, I'm out. How can you run an event like this? But when you're sitting there and you're showing your vulnerability, and you're saying, I'm trying to do this because I'm living in my dream to help you get to yours. That's, I think, that sense of community that people are really starting to see right now, where people are staying home and other people are delivering food, or people are, can't go anywhere, so they have one member of their family doing all of that running around. And I think that that's really showing the community that we're building. And in our event life, especially, all of the event planners that I've been hearing, normally we're competing with each other, but now it's like, how are you doing this? And how can somebody help me figure this out? And the website people are all up and running, and everyone's just running to help. which is really nice to see. So unfortunately, it's taken a global pandemic to get us all connected and on the same path. But I think that there's a lot of blessing in this, and I think that there's a lot of good that's going to come out of this eventually. And we'll have toilet paper for the next 20 years.
That is the hope. So with there's one more question, Jen, and I think this is an important one.
Okay.
To end on. And for the rest of you, this is actually new for us, for Jen and I to be live like this. So if you've asked questions, I can't actually see them from here. And I'll have to figure that out. But please put them in the comments, and we will definitely either address them tomorrow when we're online, or we can be typing some questions or some answers for you. But Jen, I was wondering, there's this last question about filtering through what's important, because there's a feeling like they're out there that there's a lot to do. And so I think this question is really coming from, how do you do everything at once? Do you do everything at once? And how do you allow that to filter through the work that you're doing so that you're actually doing your best work?
Well, as event planners, we all know that we all do everything all at once, right? So we're fighting a fire over here, we're ordering catering over here, and we're taking care of all of it at once.
Yeah.
Especially, if you're a parent, you're doing it all as well.
Exactly.
But I think that really filtering the information is important. I think going to your valued sources. I think I just posted online about how people are confused whether they should listen to all the doctors or their friend from high school who's like anti-media. And how do you decide who to listen to? I think it's really important that you go to the sources. The government websites have been really great. Prime Minister Trudeau's been every day giving I've been seeing him on CBC with all the updates. This morning they had announced about the Olympics that the Canadian team has decided they're not going to send their athletes. It's sad, and the event of an Olympics, like you said, it's ginormous. Even think that that's not going to be a thing, not just for event planners, but for athletes as well, who know that only 4 years there might get a chance, and now it's. So who knows? I think it's filtering the information and really knowing who to trust, where to go, who's your friend, who's got your back for real. That's really been a really good sort of thing for me to go to. I know who I can count on and who's got the real information and who's just there to make jokes. And usually I like to make jokes too, but there are some things that we need to be serious about. And just go to the right source, and also take it lightly. I think that this is all so much chaos, and in every email I hear unprecedented times and uncertainty, and those words are scary for a lot of people. And so I think just doing what we do and continuing on and just slow down a bit, and that's okay. Right?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because our one of our Candy Culture commitments is that we are playful.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have adopted as a team, because I do feel that it's important, even in times of crisis, to have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
It is not a funny situation. It's not about that, but and with a lot of the events that we work with, not everything goes perfectly. And the idea of really being able to have a laugh at yourself, maybe understand that there's something that could be lighter in the conversation. That's really the idea, I think, for us, is that we can do really great work. We can be out in the world and doing, living the life that we are called to live. But at the same time, and sometimes that's really heavy stuff, but at the same time to take it all sort of the day-to-day and the minute-to-minute with a bit of a grain of salt, and saying that there's more to this. And like you say, in time, we'll get through it, and we'll be able to look back and look at what we've learned, and maybe how we've helped each other get through it too. So yeah,
totally.
really appreciate it.
Also to realize that it's not just you, we're all in the same boat. All our kids are home from school. They all finished in the middle of their grade. So nobody's going to, be smarter or better or more advanced. None of our businesses are really, we're all in the same place, is what I'm trying to say. So your event gets postponed, so is everybody else's. you know, so the competition needs to stop so that we can just help each other to get through this. And I think that listening to the health authorities and doing what we're supposed to do, staying inside and really taking responsibility as a community will get us all there. So we're not alone. We're all at home with our children.
There's always going to be someone you can reach out to. And I was mentioning yesterday when I was doing a series. So if you want to look at the series, you can find my profile on LinkedIn. And I'm sure for Jen and I, we started an email that says, or it's pickmybrain@candyconsulting.ca. And the purpose of that is that we don't know what questions you're asking. So we can have these series, I can do videos, Jen can be on and share her expertise. But at the same time, if we don't know what it is that you're dealing with, we may not be able to help. So reach out, send an email. We're always here. We're going to be back tomorrow. So the topic for tomorrow is professional leadership. So I have put all of on the Facebook, on our Facebook Candy Consulting page. You can actually download this and see what's coming up. But the next one is going to be on Tuesday, that's tomorrow, professional leadership. So true leadership never matters more than in a crisis. And what does it mean to lead your event team, volunteers, and partners through that time of uncertainty? So there's that word again, Jen. And let's talk. We're going to talk about it. So we hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks for chiming in, Jen. And this has been great. So make sure if you have any other questions, just let us know. We can get you connected to some people if you really truly need some support through this, whether that's mental health supports. That's something that we can add some links to as well. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Thanks, Lisa.
All right. We'll see you later.